Okay, so the question we're doing is comparing positive and negative numbers. The question asks us to write an integer that is the same distance from negative 10 as it is from 0. So what we need to do is create a number line. Okay, so they've given us two extremes here, negative 10 and 0. When we go to make our number line, do you think we need to go to the positive side of 0? Well, if it's going to be the same distance, do you think, is it going to be between 0 and negative 10? Or is it going to be farther to the left, as in more negative than negative 10? Or in the positive direction of 0? Which do you think is most likely? Okay, that's right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a number line where we have negative 10, right? We're going to go through the numbers in between those. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And we'll even put in 1, 2, and 3. And why not 4? Okay, so we filled out our number line. Now what's key here is, you're right, we're probably going to be working between 0 and negative 10. And we need a number that's going to be the same distance away from both of them. So what do you think that means in terms of where we got to put our number on this line? Would it be right beside 0? In the middle, that's right. We're looking for something that's going to be in the middle here. Okay. Now what number do you think is in the middle between? Negative 5 is probably right in between. Okay. So let's take a look with our negative 5. We'll put a little highlight here. We'll put it in red and we'll count. Okay. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we know it's 5 away from 0, and let's count from negative 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So was it the same distance away? Yeah. Yes, it was definitely the same distance away. Okay. Now I'm going to show you another way you could have solved this, and you're going to get into this stuff a little more as we go through. Okay. Another way you could have solved this is, because we knew it had to be in the middle between negative 10 and 0, we can find out exactly how far it is. And by looking at these numbers, how far do you think it is from negative 10 to 0? How many units do we have to go across? If I were to count back, 2, 3. Yeah, 10. That's exactly right. So let's talk about it like that. Let's say, and another way to figure that out is to actually take that number, 10, or negative 10, and subtract 0. Okay. So when I take negative 10 and I subtract 0, what do I get? Not quite. So think of it, we're starting at negative 10, and I'm not moving anywhere.
Oh, negative 10.
Yeah, we're going to stay at negative 10. Negative 10. Now, that's what that told us, is that's the distance between 0 and negative 10. And we knew that. Positive 10, negative 10, it just depends what direction we're going. If I'm going from 0 to negative 10, it's negative 10. But if I'm going from 10 to 0, it's positive 10. The important part is that how many units away are we? 10 units. That's the important one, right? So we'll go like that. That would be positive 10. And going back this way would be negative 10. But overall, I'm going to write that word there, overall is equal to 10 units. Okay, that's what's important. Now, like you said, we're trying to find out what was in the middle, right? Well, the middle would be like cutting this in what? Into a certain fraction. I know fractions aren't our favorite. Into half. That's right. We'd be cutting this into half if we're trying to find the middle. So we're trying to find half of 10 units. Now, what operation would I use to find half of something? Do I multiply, subtract, add, divide? I would divide, that's right. I would take the 10 units, and what would I divide by? 2, that's right. 2 is what will cut things in half if we divide by 2. So here's a question. What is 10 divided by 2? 5. So now 5 units is how far we have to travel. So we know we could either take either of our starting points. One of the starting points was negative 10. One of them was 0. And we can either if we're going back from negative 10, we can take away 5 units, or if we're going from 0, we can go forward 5 units. So let's see if we can try with both answers, okay? So if we did 10, and remember, we're going in a positive direction if we're going towards 0, right? This means we're traveling positive direction on the number line, so we'd be adding 5 units. So here's the question. Have you guys done adding and subtracting integers yet?
I think I understand it.
Okay, so what if I was at negative 10 and I went in the positive direction 5? Where would it end up? Yeah, very good. Or, what if we start at 0, and if we're traveling towards negative 10, what direction am I going? Positive or negative? Negative. So I need to subtract 5 units from there. What number would I end up at? Negative 5. So this would be considered, I know you guys haven't talked too much about it, but this would be considered algebraically. This would be using a number line. Now the number line is probably going to be the easiest one for us, right? Okay. But there's several ways we can always solve that question. Okay. So if you like the number line way, you work with that one. If you think you can calculate it the way we calculated with our numbers and we found negative 5 for both, then you go ahead and try calculating it, okay? So, okay. And there's another way we could have done that. I really like what you guys came up with. All right, so we'll do that as the final way in blue. Okay, so we started at 0 and negative 10, and we crossed one number out each, right? So we'll cross out negative 10 and 0 to start, and then cross out negative 9, negative 1. So we go back and forth between each side, right?
Yeah.
So then what would go next?
And negative 8 and negative 2,
Yeah.
negative 7, negative 3, negative 6, and negative 4.
And we're left with
5. Negative 5.
Perfect. That's a great way to do it. Excellent way to do it. Excellent. Okay, so we have another question. An integer is between negative 4 and 19. So that's good. They told us it's in between these numbers. That's important. That should be capital I. It is twice as far from negative 4 as it is from negative 19. What is the integer? Oh, okay. So let's set this one up too. Now, I'm going to need a little more space here. Fit everything on this line. What I might do is use a different type of line. Yeah, I think this line might work a little better. So what I'm going to do is each of the dashes on this line can be a point. So we have, let's say we go at negative 20. This guy here is negative 18. We go every 2. We'll write something. Negative 16. Negative 14. 12, negative 10, negative 8, 6, 4. Oh, we really didn't need to go that close. Alright, what I'll do is I'll make this off, and then once we have it, reset. That way we have lots of room. Alright, so it took us a bit to make this number line. And here's a little trick with number lines. Okay, so sometimes I don't always have a lot of space, especially when I have 2-digit numbers. If I would have squeezed negative 19 in there, 17, 15, it gets really crowded on the bottom, right? So what I did instead is I wrote some of the numbers on top. I alternated so that it'd be a little easier to read. So we are actually going from negative 20 to negative 2. But what do we need to go to in this question?
Negative 4 to negative 9.
Yeah, so we're working with numbers between that. So let's draw a little line here. Negative 19 to negative 4. That's what we're working with here. Okay? So we got to find things. An integer that's between them. Alright, so there's a lot of integers between them. It is twice as far from negative 4 as it is from 19. So let's establish first, what's it going to be closer to? Is it going to be closer to negative 4? Or is it going to be closer to negative 19? That's right, because it's twice as far from 4. Okay? So, any ideas on how we could solve this one?
If it's twice from 4, would you multiply 4 times 2?
Okay. Do you remember that thing you guys were doing before, where we were scratching one out each?
Yeah.
That's because we were just as far from each.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what if we did? What this is called is also a ratio. Do you guys remember doing ratios at all?
Yeah.
Because it's twice as far from 4 as it is from 19. What that means is it's a ratio of 2 to 1. Oops. We have a ratio of 2 to 1. So because it's a ratio of 2 to 1, we can cross out 2 numbers for every 1 number we do. 2 numbers for every 1 number we do. 2 numbers, 1 number. 2 numbers, 1 number. 2 numbers, 1 number. What will we be left with? That's right. Now we need to double check to make sure that this all worked out properly. How far is negative 14 from the number, negative 4? How far away are these two? That's right. We count back 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's right. So here we have a difference of 10 units, we'll call it, because it depends what direction we're going. How far is negative 14 from 19?
15. Oh, negative 5.
Yeah, that's all right. So we're 5 units away in this distance, right? And again, it depends which way we're going. So when we crossed out our things, we'll go over it one more time. So we did 2 numbers to 1 number. 2 numbers, because it's twice as far, right? To 1 number. 2 to 1, 2 to 1. Did I count that right? 1, 2. Oh, I missed one here. There we go. 2 to 1 and 2 to 1. And we got our number 14. Now, let's double check to make sure this is right. Is 10 twice the distance of 5? How do I prove that?
By doing the same thing that you did.
Okay. What does twice mean in terms of an operation? If it's twice as far, do I add 2, divide 2, subtract 2, multiply by 2?
You
Divide? What would I divide?
10 divided by 5.
Okay. And what will that give us if we were to do that?
2.
That would give us 2. You're right. So that's one way you could think of it. Usually an easier way to go about it is your 5 units. Okay. If we multiply it by 2, what is it going to equal?
10.
That's right. It equals our 10 units. So that's exactly what we're looking for. We know 10 is twice as far as the number 5. Okay. So that could be a little proof for us. 2 times 5 units gives us our 10 units. So we know that works out pretty good. Okay. Does that make sense?